All right, so check this out. I'm going to play this lead that's kind of laid back, kind of a J.J. Cale vibe, that's at least what I was going for, but I'm limiting myself to just the pentatonic scale, the minor pentatonic scale, and in one position of the fretboard. So we're not playing all over the fretboard, one spot. This will be in G minor. There actually are a few extra notes that I'm adding to it, which I'll explain as we get into it, but it's really just mostly minor pentatonic scale. And there's some freedom that you experience when you limit yourself. It's kind of a strange thing. You wouldn't think it. But anyway, here's what it sounds like. So in this video, I'm going to explain where all those notes come from so that you can take them and use them in your own playing. And I also want to talk through this whole idea of the freedom that you experience from limitation. It's actually a good thing to sort of limit yourself. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll go through the first half of everything. If you'd like to download the tablature, the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos, and also watch the part 2 video for this lesson, you can get all of those extras by going to activemelody.com and doing a search for EP608. So when you're learning how to play an instrument and you're learning how to improvise on it and compose and play it and all of that stuff, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, and that happens to everybody. Especially when it comes to theory, there's everything from triads to modes to arpeggios to scales, and and then there's like tons of those things, and it's like, which ones do I need to know? And here I'm about to go into a jam, and you're, like a jam with other people, and your brain starts going through all these ideas. Well, which one should I choose? Where do I start? Well, to me, the pentatonic scale is kind of, maybe this is just because this is how I learned it, but the pentatonic scale is the essentials. It's just the essentials. It's like the Swiss Army knife of notes. It gives you just the ones that work the best. It doesn't mean you can't be more colorful with other things, but that's why it's so popular. Because, and I'm talking major and minor pentatonic scale, because it's the essential notes. Any of those problematic notes are eliminated. It's just the core notes, and that's why I'm such a fan of it. So don't ever beat yourself up if you're mainly a pentatonic player. Probably good chance that a lot of your guitar heroes out there are pentatonic players, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's okay to step out of the box here and there, but that's the root of where I think some of the best stuff happens. And that's what we're going to be doing in this lesson. We're going to limit ourselves to the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. We're going to be playing in G minor. Now, pattern 1, when I say that, this is what that looks like. Now, most of you probably already know this. You've probably used this in other things. But have you ever just locked in on just that and not let yourself go to any of the other patterns? Just that. What can you do in that one area? Why would you do this, by the way? Why would you put handcuffs on yourself and sort of lock yourself? It's because it forces a different part of your brain. I really believe this. I think that something happens when you've got a limitation like this. You start pushing what you've got in ways that you wouldn't when you're thinking about other options, and you get more creative, I think, in some ways, or at least more soulful. You start to sing a little more, as opposed to being it's more of an art versus a science kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's where we're going to be, is minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. So just keep that in mind as we listen to this first phrase. All right, so here's what we're going to learn. Doesn't that sound great, even on its own? And those notes. It's so simple. 5 notes right out of the middle of your pattern 1 here. So let's just look at those notes. Put your ring finger on the 5th fret, 5th string, and then come up to the 3rd fret on the 4th string and play 3, 5, and then up to the 3rd string and play 3, 5. Those are your notes. Very simple, right? Now what makes it start to sound good or sound like a singer is when you work in some little bends like that, some vibrato. You take those notes and you transform them. So I'm starting here on the 5th fret, 3rd string with sort of a half bend. It's somewhere between a full bend and a half bend. Now I could do a full bend because that note is this note, which is in your minor pentatonic scale. But by doing that half bend, you're hitting on kind of that blue note, which is actually in the blues scale. And it has a little more of a bluesy sound if I don't go all the way. Like, hear that? It's just a subtle thing. But I mean, and you know, there's no right answer. You could do a full bend there, but that's what I did. I did sort of a little half bend there. So I hit that note, and by the way, I come in right on the 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Bend, release, and then that's up, down with the right hand. So it's like this. So let's put that together. Now we're going to come down to the 5th fret, 4th string, and then hit the 5th fret, 5th string. So down, up with the right hand. So we have. And then we come to the 3rd fret, 4th string, and then the 5th fret, 4th string. And when you put that all together, you have. Now that's a cool lick even on its own, even if you get nothing else. You could take that now, and I realize some of that may be difficult if you're not comfortable with alternate picking, if you don't have your speed up, but just practice that, slow it down. I do have a slower version of the jam track so that you can practice playing along with that. Notice when I came into this 3rd fret to the 5th fret on that 4th string, another little subtle bend. I didn't even think about it till just now, but there's this little. You can hear it right there. Now after that, the response to that, I guess, would be. That's on the 3rd string. We're going to hit that 3rd fret. Another little half, not even a half bend, just a sort of a subtle nudge towards the 4th fret. And then 5th fret, 3rd string. And there's a bend and release on that 5th fret, 3rd string. And then back to the 3rd fret, back to the 5th fret, 4th string. And then that last note is the 3rd fret, 3rd string. So altogether, that little response is. So you can think of that first part as the call. The response. And that's that first little phrase. And then I go back to it. And I like to do this a lot in music because it happens a lot organically with vocals. And so as you're playing lead, you're kind of, especially when you're just making a lead like this, you know, making it up, it's totally a good thing on many levels to repeat yourself. It's good for you because it gives you something, you can go back and kind of redo something, but it also is good for the listener because it's familiar territory. It's like, okay, he just said this phrase, now we're saying it again. Think of the vocals in a blues in a 1-4-5. In the 1 and the 4, it's the same line. You repeat most of the time, right? You go back to that same phrase. So anyway, I'm kind of doing that here. So the second time through, I just did one little twist. Instead of going, I went like this. 2 little bends instead of 1. I mean, that's really the only difference. So that whole call is exactly the same except for the 2 bends instead of 1. And then we get to the response, which is a little different. I went like this. So I hit strings 2 and 3 on the 3rd fret, still staying in the minor pentatonic scale. Then down to the 5th fret 4th string, 5th fret 5th string. And then we're going to the 4th string, we're going to go 3, 5, 5, and conclude it there. So to my ear, it sounds good to wrap up that entire little phrase on that G note, because that's the key of the song. We're still playing over the G chord. And so the first time I hit that, which is the flat 3rd, right? But then the second time, it just seems more resolved, like, okay, we just came home to land on that G note. And there it is again, that little subtle little bends there, little nudges sharp with those notes. All right, so now the song is going to stay on that G minor, and I could have went back and played that whole thing again, but instead I came up here and went. Let's look at that. Now this is still G minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. So we start by sliding into the 2nd string on the 3rd fret. So I'm actually barring with my index finger on the 3rd fret, strings 1 and 2, Chuck Berry territory, right? So hit that, and then to the flat 7, which is up here on the 6th fret 2nd string. And then watch this. Isn't that cool? So all I'm doing is I'm going just down the pentatonic scale, right down the pattern there. So it's 3rd fret 2nd string, 5th fret 3rd string, back to the 3rd fret 2nd string, and then we're going to go back to the 5th fret 3rd string with that pre-bend release, and then we're going to land on that flat 3rd again, which is the 3rd fret 3rd string. So that's the timing of it. So let me do that slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's got some great material that you can steal and make your own. So I want you to be thinking about this as you go through this. Don't just try and memorize this verbatim. I mean, you can just, to learn it, but then think about how could you use that lick in something else? So try that over a different jam track. You get in a different key even. So that's the call. The response is some of these bends. This is sort of Mark Knopfler territory. This is somewhere between J.J. Cale and Mark Knopfler for me. I love the sound of that though. Very twangy. And so I'm doing a full bend on the 5th fret 3rd string and then hitting the 3rd fret 1st string. That may be an idea you haven't thought about. A lot of times we go from, the string we're bending to the string right above it, but have you ever just skipped that string and went, to the next one up? So we do that. Another pre-bend release on that 5th fret 3rd string. And then watch this. This time we're going to do another full bend on the 5th fret 3rd string, but the note we follow up with is on the 3rd fret 2nd string. So we're actually bending to that note. So altogether, that response, just practice that. There's a lot you can get out of that. I mean, just that lick. That's a great little blues, country, rock lick. I mean, you can use that in anything. So, all right, so now we're going to go back to that little bar on the 3rd fret, strings 1 and 2, the Chuck Berry thing. So string 2, then 1, and then we're going to come up to the 6th fret 1st string, and then back to the 3rd fret 1st string. So Notice when I hit that 6th fret first string, I'm pushing it slightly sharp. You can hear that. And what you're doing is the same thing that happens here on this 3rd fret 3rd string. In fact, it's the same note, it's just an octave higher. But when you're pushing, you're pushing towards the major 3rd, and you hear that in the blues all the time. Even though it's in a minor key, there's something about that tension that you create where it's almost like, is it gonna go to the major 3rd? But you don't. But that little tease that happens is a really nice thing for the listener. It's because you've heard it in music all the time, especially in the blues. So we have, now watch this. So I concluded that phrase with that. That's a Mark Knopfler lick for sure. I stole that from something he did. That definitely sounds like him. So what I'm doing here, now this is where I'm going to introduce a note that's not in your minor pentatonic scale, so don't beat me up, but it'll add to it. So we're going to come down to the 6th fret 2nd string, back to the 3rd fret 1st string. Here's that extra note, 5th fret 1st string. That's not in your minor pentatonic scale, I realize that, but just play it. And then we're going to go back to the 3rd fret 1st string, back to the 6th fret 2nd string, and then back to the 3rd fret 2nd string and land on that note. So now if you're wondering why that 5th fret 1st string note works, this is how I think of it. I think of this as being kind of a Dorian sound. I don't mean to get into something different, but that's, I work that note in. Even though it's just one note, it adds a nice color. I could have went like this and just stayed minor pentatonic scale. But listen to it just pulls it in a nice kind of it makes it a little bit happy, even though it's still minor. It's got that little happy sound. So to me, that's a note from your Dorian scale. So let's just think of it as a Dorian sound. But just remember this. Here's all you have to, if that gets too hairy, just think of your minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1, and just know that when you're on this 1st string, you can use that note. Just use your ear to tell you if it's going to work or not. But most of the time, in a minor key, that will work. And you can also do a half bend with it. Isn't that kind of nice? So you can bend into that next note in your pentatonic. So I wanted to work that in just so you have that little extra note to kind of play around with. Some of you probably know about that, but if you don't, now you've got it. So if you think of this as the call, then the response to that goes like this. So it's 5th fret 3rd string without the bend, and then 3rd fret 2nd string. And then we're going to go back to the 5th fret 3rd string with a bend, and then bend into it, and then hit that 3rd fret 2nd string again. So all together it's like this. Play it straight and then bend it. And then we're going to go back to the 5th fret 3rd string again. Actually, it's a pre-bend, so it's like this. So you go ahead and pre-bend it, then release it down to the 3rd fret 3rd string. And then that last note is the G note there on the 5th fret 4th string. And again, I went back to that note probably. Now, I'm not thinking about this stuff when I'm improvising these solos, but probably just to resolve. It brought us back home to the key. Could it hit the one up here as well, or down here? But I stayed in this position the whole time for this first part. See how it's forcing me to be a little more expressive, I think. Instead of my brain trying to think about other things I could be doing, and I'm thinking about what I've got, and it's pretty limited. But I start singing a little more. I start being more expressive. It's just a different approach, and I think it's a great one. And I think that's why the blues is so popular for us guitar players, because we can just limit our options. We can express ourselves. All right, so that's what I have for this part 1 video. Come join us for part 2, where we'll go over the second half, and leave a comment below if this has resonated with you, if you picked up some new ideas. I always appreciate that. That's super helpful to me. Even if you've got a question about something, leave a question. I do read through all the comments. All right, we'll see you in part 2.